Welcome back. And what happened at the Harmandir Sahib? An act of sacrilege and then a brazen lynching, murder inside the holy temple. But the reactions that came through tried to highlight the sacrilege, and there was a certain Hindu messiah which was very, very clearly evident. Not just with certain random individuals on social media, but a Conservative Party MP in the United Kingdom who put out a tweet and then deleted it. She actually used the words Hindu terrorist for the act of sacrilege that was committed. This person, Preet Gill, now faces a lot of fire. The Indian High Commission repudiated those remarks, but Preet Gill has not apologized. Why has she not apologized? She just deleted the tweet 10-15 minutes later, but she's not apologized. And there is a huge furor in the United Kingdom, with many saying she should not be there in the British Parliament.
A tweet that set off a storm. British Labour Party MP Preet Kaur Gill sent out shockwaves with a tweet claiming the incident at the Golden Temple on the 18th of December in Amritsar was the work of a Hindu terrorist. Hindu terrorist prevented from an act of violence at the Sikh holy shrine of Harmandir Sahib against Sikhs, she said. Gill soon withdrew the tweet, but the allegation was big enough to invite huge condemnation.
She mentions Hindu, she mentions terrorist, she mentions against Sikhs. Completely unacceptable from a minister of the British government.
Hindu groups called it vicious hate-mongering at its worst, an outright effort to sow seeds of division. The Indian High Commission in London expressed regret on a comment made even before investigation agencies had done their job, and standing out glaringly as it came from a British Member of Parliament.
So both her reach is very much more than the man on the street, and the capacity to cause harm is equally amplified, so it's not acceptable to merely delete the tweet.
Pandit Sharma even said the tweet is actionable under Britain's laws on hate speech.
An irresponsible tweet, then withdrawn without apology, and now a protest against what is seen as hate politics aimed at India being played out in Britain.
And Preet Gill has very close Khalistani links, or with those who believe that they should have a separate Sikh nation, the Sikh Federation in the United Kingdom. She's got close ties to the Khalistan movement. She's closely associated. She chairs the all-party parliamentary group on British Sikhs. The group is run by the Sikh Federation. This is openly a pro-Khalistan federation. Federation claims separate ethnicity for Sikhs, and which is the larger goal is to try and create a separate Sikh nation, carve out a separate Sikh nation. So clearly the Khalistan agenda declares self-determination of a Sikh nation as a key objective, as clause number 7 of its objective. That's what they say. It lobbies British and international governments for support for a separate Sikh homeland. Preet Gill, a Labour Party member, an MP in the British Parliament, is openly pushing for a Khalistani agenda, and that's where, ladies and gentlemen, this Hindu messiah of calling and labeling the person who committed the sacrilege, the person who was lynched, trying to justify it, saying it is a Hindu terrorist, and then talking only about the sacrilege. But the act of taking a human life inside the Golden Temple, inside Harmandir Sahib, was that not sacrilege? That's also a question. But Preet Gill, should she be in the British Parliament? That's a question many are asking. Wonder why the Labour Party itself so far has taken no action against her. Pandit Satish K. Sharma, chair of the British Board of Dharmic Scholars, is joining us. We also have Dr. Melissa Kapoor joining us, and Sanjay Suri, he's our colleague, good friend with CNN News 18, is also joining us. So before I go across to our guest, let's try and understand from Sanjay Suri. Sanjay, did we try and reach out to Preet Gill and get her version? She's not even apologized for the tweet. She just deleted it.
Well, it's hardly surprising that she has not acknowledged receipt of our request, never mind responding to it. She has disregarded our request for a comment on this, as could have been predicted. She has gone silent and, of course, away with it. She is appearing to get away with it politically, because within the Labour Party, we are not seeing the level of disciplinary action that should be accepted, should be expected on its coming up with this kind of agenda. And its leadership have looked the other way, focused on winning an election. They think that Preet Kaur Gill is in a winnable seat, and therefore they're going to be careful before they move against her for that reason, which of course is unprincipled and unfortunate.
True, unprincipled, unfortunate, especially when she is backing a group whose clause 7 actually says self-determination for the Sikh nation. Right to self-determination. That's what it is. She's trying to lobby the UK government. This is clearly a Khalistani agenda. Pandit Satish Sharma ji, is the Hindu and the Sikh community so divided there in the United Kingdom that they would allow a tweet like this and a person with so much of Hindu mishya to be in Parliament?
Well, apparently so. But Pranamji Namaskaram, Jai Shri Ram. I'd just like to, before we delve into the details, I'd just like to express the British Hindu and the Sikh community's condolences. I've had many people from the Sikh community reach out to me as well to share how saddened they were by the events of the lynching in Harmandir Sahib. And many of them are deeply, deeply disturbed that the holy shrine, which is the foundation of the Sikh message to the world, has been tarnished by the actions that were done by the young man, but more so by the actions of the Sevadars, who really, it's just shocking the level of dehumanization which led to the assault on this young man, and then the dehumanization which is continued in the political spinning that has followed. But here in the United Kingdom, we do have the vast majority of Hindus and Sikhs enjoy wonderful relationships, and you know, it's intertwined in us. I'm a Punjabi by birth. I was born in Punjab and have spent as much time in Gurdwara as I have in mandirs. And you can't separate the two. But there are some people who have neither knowledge of the shared parentage and the family relationships between Sanatanis and Hindus and Sikhs, and they have no knowledge of the shared history either. And yet this small toxic group seem to be wanting to leverage their platforms to create disharmony and to create conflict where none should exist, and there is no reason for it to exist. This is my principal concern, that we need to dampen this down and to start to dig into the roots of this and try and make sure we create a better place for our youngsters to carry on together.
True, but the fact is, how is this person an MP, and how is the Labour Party okay with somebody who's signed objective, stated objective, Pandit Satish Sharma ji, because Dabinderjeet Singh runs the Sikh Federation. She's a member of the Sikh Federation. She's championing this cause. And in their clause 7, it says, lobby the UK government, official representatives of foreign governments in the UK, the European Parliament and at the UN for a change in policy towards the Indian subcontinent so that it adequately reflects the Sikh nation's desire for self-determination and complements the need for Khalistan. Make known and explain the reasons why Sikh want to establish an independent sovereign state of Khalistan. The Khalistan is a Pakistani narrative.
It is. All of what you've said is valid and it's true. But here in the United Kingdom, one of the values they tout is that freedom of speech is sacrosanct. And obviously, it's not policed and it's not protected uniformly across all groups. You see, the right of a group of individuals to come together and put that forward as a political aim, they have the right to do that under British law. That's fine. But where I really struggle is that front bench ministers and shadow ministers, they really are the voices, the mouthpieces of party policy. And so when a front bencher or a shadow front bencher, a shadow minister in this case, makes a statement, either that statement is in accordance with party politics and that's established policy, or that person should be reprimanded by those who govern what the manifesto is and what the policies of the party are, and they should make a statement saying, no, this is not party policy. And for Preet Gill to have made this statement, you know, to link the word Hindu with terrorist and then put violence against Sikhs all in the same tweet on the basis of no evidence whatsoever, is clearly an act of inciting hatred. And the party should make a statement. Keir Starmer must make a statement. And Steve Reid, who I've had conversations, he's the minister, the shadow minister for communities and local government on the Labour Party. He really does need to step forward and make a statement. And let's put this thing behind us if that's what everybody wants to do. but I have a feeling that there are people who are, shall we say, too much Josh and not enough horse in the community, who will want to leverage this for political advantage, and we have to prevent them from having the opportunity to make things worse where there's no need. So she really does need to step up.
I'm just saying tomorrow if the elections, so tomorrow if there are elections, Panditji, and I'm going to bring Melissa Ji here, so India should watch out that if the Labour Party comes to the fore, they will actually actively lobby and push for Khalistan. So they will again want to try and break India. Is that what it stands for right now? Because nobody has reprimanded Preet Gill. She has not apologized for her comment. And clearly, she is following a particular narrative which is anti the interests of this country.
I think that's a perfectly valid chain of evidence. And it really is important for it to be challenged or for it to be withdrawn.
Panditji, if I may ask Melissa Ji also her thoughts. Yes, Melissa Ji.
Absolutely, I agree with Panditji that that is a very sensible prediction to be making. It is not surprising at all that this is the party politics of the Labour Party. They are compromised because they are being funded by some of these interest groups that you've just been describing, operating in a colonial power. So what do we expect? But I think the important point I would like to make is that if a similar statement had been made, for example, about the Jewish community, there would be such greater outrage from politicians around the world, from Jewish religious leaders. And yet, when we think of this example here and what's happening in India, there's been pin drop silence. I heard you earlier, Anandji, saying how many of these politicians, they're looking the other way. And in fact, some Hindu leaders are actually only condemning the Hindu victim. Can you believe it? No case has been filed on the murderers. It's really astonishing. And it shows that if Hindu leaders are not showing their support of Hindus, they are orphaning us and they are making us easy pickings, easy target. And so then what can you expect from people sitting on the other side of the world with their own agendas? They know that they can be making these statements without consequence. So I'm not justifying this MP at all. I'm absolutely condemning it. But we really need to be introspecting, I think, here, the Hindu leaders within India, and realizing that this appeasement essentially is very dangerous.
True.
It's leading to mobocracy.
That's another discussion and a longer one, Melissa Ji, that Hindus by default are not even described as a religion or a religious group as far as the British Parliament or even by the UN is concerned. And Pandit Satish Sharma has spoken about this. But what has the Indian High Commission done there? Have they taken anything beyond just issuing a strongly worded statement? Have they taken the matter up with the Labour Party? Sanjay Suri, may I ask you that?
Well, certainly a representation has been made to the UK government and to the Labour Party. The High Commission is in touch with the Labour Party, but the response, as Sharmaji said, has been standard and knee-jerk, that we believe in freedom of expression, and there the matter rests so far as this argument goes, but there the matter clearly cannot rest, even legally and constitutionally, because there are laws against hate speech, and this clearly was an instance of hate speech. One reason that a lot of Hindus haven't spoken, or indeed a lot of Sikhs, is that the Khalistanis here are a small but aggressive group. A lot of people fear them even if they do not agree with them. And that includes people both in the Sikh and the Hindu community, which is why they seem to get away with such expressions.
True, but my final question, Pandit Satish Sharma, the community may be worried because of backlash, individual backlash and selective targeting, but that should not stop a Keir Starmer or a Bruce Reid from saying what does the Labour Party actually stand for? Does it talk about uniting nations and uniting people, or does it talk about those or give platform to those who would want to divide countries and communities?
Precisely. And there has been evidence provided that the Labour Party was infiltrated by Islamist extremists. Their own MPs have published papers and reports on this issue. And there is evidence to suggest that it's not just the Islamists who had infiltrated the Labour Party. And so it's really beholden. It's the responsibility of the leadership of the Labour Party to put its own house in order in the interests of British citizens of all religious denominations and all communities. Unless it actually it can establish that that's its credible position, then I can't see how it can possibly ever hope to establish credibility with the Hindu community, and certainly not with the wider Sikh community. Keir Starmer, Steve Reed, they need to step forward and make a statement on this, because I don't think it's going to go away. The potential for conflict and for friction is ever present. Remember, England is a tiny island, and we all live in very close proximity to each other, and we all work very hard to look after our shared interests and for the communities to integrate. And so some sort of a statement like this can potentially spark off conflict where it should not have occurred in the first place. And this is, I would firmly place this in Keir Starmer's lap. He needs to step forward and do something, not just give us empty words. He needs to step forward and do something to re-establish security on the behalf of the Hindu community and the Sikh community from his own parliamentarians.
True, and what happens in Punjab directly affects what is happening in those who are in the United Kingdom and those who are in Canada and in Australia. Melissa ji, this is something which is evident. And if and there is a vice versa too, that what happens in the United Kingdom has its bearing on what will happen in Punjab. And if there is a direct influence from Pakistan, whose stated objective post 1971 is to split India, and Kashmir and Khalistan are its objectives. So they are using this religious divide, sowing these seeds of divide, and this game is being played. And if you have an elected member of parliament in Britain helping this agenda, then we have a serious issue. Melissa ji.
Absolutely. And I've already seen this friction for myself here in the UK. I have a Hindu school friend who fell in love with a Sikh man, and her family absolutely rejected him, refused to let her get married to him, even though they had let her older sister marry a Christian and move across half the way across the world to Australia. That was totally fine. So it shows that there is this friction, very sadly, between two communities that actually are, they're brother communities, aren't they? It's terribly, terribly sad.
It is, and something has to be done. Melissa ji, Pandit Satish Sharma and also Sanjay Suri. Thank you for joining us from the United Kingdom with the update. Now it's the ball on the court of the Labour Party there, but clearly there are those within the ranks in the British Parliament who have a clear stated objective to divide India. Should they get a platform? That's the big question. We take a very, very short break. When we come back, shocking visuals coming in from Afghanistan. Stay with us.